Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the MX Endurance Podcast, where we look at everything that's been happening in the world of endurance sports. My name is Tim Ford, and I'm joined by none other than the penultimate legend, the sexy shepherdess, the sexiest voice in triathlon himself, James Bell. Jimbo, welcome back to the podcast, mate.
Mate, another week. Here we are. We're doing it again. We got plenty to say, plenty more to talk about. Triathlon is starting to wake up, isn't it? We're getting this gentle flow of news in. I'm not sure. I've changed my camera angle, mate. I'm not sure I like this very much. It's making my chin look too flabby. I'm going to do that and release the beast a little bit. How are you?
Release the beast. I'm good. I am very good, actually, mate. A bit of a update. I think it was last week I was talking about how I'd gone and seen a podiatrist and stuff. So like this week, I went and had an MRI, mate. I've been in the MRI machine.
Oh, yeah. How's your plantar? Is that for your plantar?
Yeah, so I don't think it's plantar, which is actually interesting. Again, I know triathletes love this shit, actually. Based on the appointments I had with my podiatrist, my physio, and everything, it looks like I have something called, it's like Hoxton's nerve impingement or something, where basically there's this nerve that runs down the side of your calf, around the back of your ankle, and then under your foot. And because of the way my pain was and moving around a bit, my physio was the first one. He said, I think this isn't, like, I don't think it's plantar. And we looked into it, and apparently the two are like quite closely related. Often you'll have plantar, which will lead to this because of the inflammation of where the nerve goes and things. So they sort of get misdiagnosed. And when I was seeing my podiatrist, because obviously for people playing along at home, when you get plantar, one of the things you need to do is improve your calf strength. So I've been doing like weighted calf raises at the gym for like, I don't know, 6 weeks now. And the podiatrist is like, oh, so how heavy do you do your calf raise? I'm like, oh, like 120 kilos. He's like, sorry, what? I'm like, 120 kilos. He's like, mate, that's like the 1 percentile. I'm like, oh, okay. He's like, it ain't that. Like, you've clearly got decent calf strength.
Yeah.
But so got my orthotics arrived this week, and I've been using them. And mate, honestly, the difference is almost like from when we started to ice the right area, because it's, again, I don't know if I can, like, for people playing along at home, say this is my foot on the inside. It's like this spot at the sort of side. There's this thick artery and nerve thing that runs through. So I've just been icing that and getting like treatment on it and taping my foot. And it's like night and day already. It's definitely not better. Like, it's still a problem, but it's probably come down 50, 60% in a week already. And the podiatrist said, mate, honestly, this is actually quite a good injury to have, because the like 3 to 6 weeks, you should be better than ever. Nice. So I'm like super actually optimistic, mate. It's quite exciting, because I've got, I think last year ended up being quite frustrating. Like the last few years have
inflammation in there? Is that what it is?
A bit of everything. So it's a bit of inflammation, but it's obvious, like something has, again, I don't know how technical people want me to get, but I tend to pronate too much when I run, and that constant pronation and then touching down on the inside of your foot means that my foot has to then roll back up on every push off, and that area is just getting jammed up too much. So I guess trying to fix that. But mate, if I can get it fixed, I'll be over the moon, because I fucking love running, and I haven't been able to run for I've done bits and pieces. Like, I'm running like 30 minutes at the moment, walking.
Yeah, you sound like you're pretty much where I was sort of most of last year, trying to recover from the broken ankle. I love running, but I hate running when it ain't comfortable and it ain't easy and you can't get going. So yeah, I hope you see the back of that, mate. Have you got is your podiatrist physio got a no needles policy in terms of reducing inflammation, or?
They've said that I might need it.
Yeah,
they've said that I might need it later. Like, again, I'll just sort of take that edge off, because I said I've always been, again, talking to my physio Matt. I know you listen, Sweeney. When I had the hamstring injury, he was like, we don't want to do cortisone injection. But that's apparently, you don't want to do cortisone injections into a tendon, but because this isn't the tendon that's the problem, it's this nerve canal area, it's okay to do cortisone if I need it, because it's not. So if you inject, obviously, if you inject cortisone into a tendon, ultimately you can end up having worse injuries down the track, because it just masks the symptoms. You don't fix the actual cause. People keep training, things can rupture. But he said, because this is just a area, like there's no tendons, I don't know what it is, it should be okay. But again, hopefully we don't need it, because I fucking hate needles, mate. Like, I'm terrified. I'm terrified. I'm terrified of needles. Like, you
told me this at vaccine time. I think you told me this. Yeah, I remember.
And I've had them through this 4 of them. Even worse is blood. Like, don't even. I had to get blood taken late last year, and I'm such a I hate it. I can't look. It's no good.
Really?
No good, mate.
Me. I love to see it come squirting out.
I don't even talking about it makes me feel weak now. I'm like, no, I don't want to.
Well, let's talk about triathlon, which is what people are here to listen to, isn't it? They're not here to listen to us going about our medical problems.
Well, technically, that was kind of triathlon. As a triathlete, that is my journey through the sport. I'm sure there are lots of people who can relate, and probably people who got sore heels are going, I bet I've got that Hoxton's.
Yeah, everybody will have it now. Mate, niggly injuries are weird. Like I've been running like a dream this year so far. Every run has felt fantastic. I've just been, racking up. And then I went out on Friday last week, and I just had this weird knee pain, just out of nowhere. Just a weird knee pain. Couldn't run. Walked home, and then the next day it was fine. No, I think I just had a tight calf, and it was just translating up into my knee. And next day I was fine. Went for a run. Happy days. It's just getting old, isn't it?
Well, people playing along at home, the number one piece of training advice, which you rarely get from the MX Endurance podcast, is go to the gym. Do not neglect the gym. 100%. You have to go to the gym at least once, preferably twice a week.
3 times a week, heavy weights forever, especially if you're over 30. If you're under 30, you can bounce, mate. You can bounce.
Yeah, exactly.
You're all right. It just gets harder.
I know I turned 37 last week. I'm like, fucking hell, I am getting actually, little shout out. Will McCloy, the voice of Super League Triathlon and our friend, turned 40 this week. So, Will, you don't look a day over 39, mate. Congratulations.
No, he doesn't, does he? He's still got a full head of hair, bastard.
Exactly. So do I. Look at this. It's coming along nicely.
Mediocre.
James Bale, this podcast is the official podcast of MX Endurance, so it's premier endurance sports community created by 4-time world champion Chris McCormack. People know all about it. I've asked you 100 times. I'm going to stop asking you this year. But let's get into it, mate, because there has been plenty to talk about in the last week. And again, probably before that, because we did take that decent little break. But wait, where do you want to start? What's the first thing you want to talk about? Because I think I know where I want to start, but let's see.
I'd quite like to start with Gwen Jorgensen.
Let's do it.
Yeah, so are we in the same place, or were you thinking of something else?
I was thinking of something else, but I'm happy to pivot to this because I was in Kona last year. Mm-hmm. Again, people know this, and I got told that Gwen Jorgensen was making her return to racing. I was like, amazing. Gwen is going to dominate like middle and long course because, as we know, it's all about the running, middle and long course. And Gwen's, I think I've read or somebody told me that Gwen's got like 5 of the fastest 10K times in short course racing ever, like off the bike, the fastest 10K,
5 of the fastest 10 Olympic distance run splits.
Yeah. And something, I went, her in 70.3 Ironman, I can just see her doing really well. And then, oh, no, she's not doing, she's gone back to like ITU. It's like, oh, that's interesting.
It is.
What do you think, mate?
I think it's fantastic. I mean, she said that her focus is going to be primarily the mixed team relay at Paris.
Yeah. Yep.
So bringing that run strength to that team is an amazing thing to do. When I noticed the news, I saw the news, I was very excited because, the sort of power that she's got, the sort of results that she's got, 2014, 2015 ITU World Triathlon Series champion, 2016 triathlon gold medalist, Olympic gold medalist. I think she brings huge talent to the women's field. The women's field is a competitive place anyway at the moment. And I think it would certainly bring some extra game to Flora Duffy, doesn't it?
Yeah, so I knew this was sort of happening and it's sort of been there or thereabouts. And then I saw Flora Duffy actually have some comments on it this week where she was like actually saying she's quite surprised that Gwen's coming back to the short course racing. And I kind of get it, to be honest, mate, because
the mind games have already started. If you read the quote, it's no one says what they mean.
I kind of tend to agree with Flora here. And again, I think Gwen Jorgensen I think we added her to our list of greatest female triathletes of all time when we did it last year or the year before, whenever it was, because Gwen Jorgensen is amazing. That 2016 Rio race with Nicola, where her and Nicola are literally slowing down going, who's going? I actually asked Nicola Spirig about that. I was like, what happened between you two? She said, I looked at Gwen and I said, hey, I've already got a gold medal. Like you don't. So you've got to go if you want this thing because I'm not doing it. Incredible race. But yeah, I'm a bit surprised that she's going to short course because I kind of tend to agree with Flora that I feel like the racing has changed a lot since Gwen did it. Where
it's been
Gwen
5
used to
years.
sort of and Gwen used to sort of
5 years. If I'm honest, it doesn't feel like 5 years that I was sitting here going, "Oh God, I wish you weren't leaving triathlon to go and try running," because I really, the time that she stepped away, I didn't want her to. As a fan of the sport, I wanted her to stay racing and stay animating and exciting the triathlon field. Before we get to Flora's comments, I think we should read out Gwen Jorgensen's quote that I've got here. She said, "I'm thrilled to announce my return to the blue carpet. I'm collaborating with my team to return to form and look forward to the work ahead as I invest in myself and the USA Triathlon. I'm inspired by the mixed team relays silver medal in Tokyo and aspire to contribute to that team in 2024. I believe Team USA can be one step higher in Paris." So, like you say, she's got 5 of the fastest 10 Olympic distance run splits. She is a gold medalist. She's a 2-time world champion. You know, she's coming back, and everyone loves a comeback, but not everyone succeeds in a comeback, do they?
No, exactly. And that USA women's team, it's pretty good. Like, they've got this new athlete who's come on the scene recently called Taylor Knibb. She's pretty handy. And then you've also got this other USA triathlete who kind of, I guess, surprisingly or controversially, or however you want to say it, got left off the Olympic team in Tokyo, being Taylor Spivey. Now, I'm very curious to see how this whole thing works, because on paper you'd be like, yeah, Gwen Jorgensen come back, like she should do it. But again, look into the things that Flora Duffy said and the way the sport sort of has changed the last few years. I'm not sure that it's going to be the same for Gwen as it was, because again, I don't know. I think I saw a post where she was saying the swim's starting to come back, but I feel like for women's racing particularly, that swim bike has become so critical to short course racing that there's no place to just be a super runner like Gwen used to be, where she'd sort of, survive, hang on the pack, and then just run through the field. I'm not sure that's going to really work anymore in short course racing, because we've got these absolutely freakish athletes up the front pushing the pace from the get-go. I mean, I'm very curious to see how it goes. One of the things, if you ever had to say Gwen had a weakness, and I don't like to use the term weakness, was that she wasn't the greatest bike rider. Is she going to be left exposed a little bit? And are we going to have, when you've got such a competitive environment with so many people on that USA team trying to get those slots, they aren't going to be, I can't see many people there putting up their hand to volunteer to work for Gwen when they're, going to be wanting that position themselves.
So let me read out Flora's comments, and then I've got a question for you.
Okay.
So Flora Duffy, in response to Gwen Jorgensen coming out of retirement, well, sort of semi-triathlon retirement, back out from the wilderness. "It was a big surprise to myself and many others to hear that Gwen was going to be returned to triathlon. I don't believe it will change too much, as since the time that she stopped racing, the level has really increased. In particular in the run, it has really increased across the board in swim, bike and run. It'll be interesting to see how her journey goes, but I don't think the race dynamics will change at all initially." So big question for you, mate. If she's targeting 2020 Paris 2024, do you think selection might be an issue?
Yeah, I do. Again, we're talking. It's like you people are already earning their qualification points now, so she's coming into it. I mean, again, we don't know how long she's been preparing for this behind the scenes, but it feels like a kind of tall order to start at the end of last year, the beginning of this year. Get yourself back to that level. Get to the races, get the results you need to then get ready in time for Paris, which is literally in 18 months' time. Like we forget how soon the Olympics are. We got the test event this year. I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical that it's going to happen. Again, though, you never know. With USA Triathlon showed us that they don't always base their picks on the numbers. With picking Katie Zaferes, which ultimately proved to be a
selection process.
Exactly, and it is very vague and unclear and how those sort of things work. But I really kind of agree with Flora here. I was so sure that if Glenn came back, she'd just come back to long course racing, where I think she could be quite good. Like, again, Ash Gentle, incredible athlete. Swim is a bit of a weakness, but then she goes to long course. It's not a problem, and she's dominating that middle distance. And I expected Gwen to do something similar. She went away focusing on marathon running. Come to Ironman, do that sort of thing. I'm curious, man.
I mean, she didn't leave the mark on the marathon world that she wanted, and probably the reason she's coming back to triathlon. But that experience of trying to push that hard on the run won't have done her run any damage, will it? She'll still be a fast runner, whether or not that long period of not swimming and not biking, whether she's been swimming and biking in the background as a bit of cross training, who knows? But not competitively swimming and biking might have dented those two elements of the triathlon a bit. But we are yet to see. It'll be exciting finding out, mate. I am optimistic for her chances. because I've got a lot of time for Gwen Jorgensen as an athlete, so I just excited to see how it plays out, and pleased I get to see how it plays out as well, because I didn't want to not see her come back to triathlon at some point.
I couldn't agree with you more. Like, I'm definitely excited to watch, and not this isn't a morbid like I can't wait to see her fail, which I bet there are people out there. I'm like genuinely, I hope she does it, mate, because again, you're right. Love a comeback story, and Gwen is a true legend of the sport. So yeah, I'm very, very, very excited to see this. And I mean, maybe we'll get her at some Super League racing. There's a lot of other things we might actually start to see Gwen do as a result of this. Because if you're specifically targeting the mixed team relay, Super League is a great opportunity to really hone those short, fast skills and make some money at the same time. So that'd be great. I'd love to see a Gwen do that super short stuff as well.
It's an interesting one whether they should go to Super League or not, though, isn't it? Because yes, it's an opportunity to hone those short, sharp skills. But it's also an opportunity to leave yourself exposed and show weaknesses if you have not been practicing at that distance or that discipline for 5 years. I would be, were it me coming back in to try and get noticed to pick for a MIC relay team, I probably wouldn't think Super League, having not raced for 5 years. But, who knows where they're going to go.
I suppose it'll just depend on how if she's having a shocker, maybe, like maybe not. Or
maybe, because it is later in the year, isn't it? So she'll have had time to see how things are going to happen until when she makes that decision. I mean, it's fairly likely that someone like Dulst will be after her to come and race Super League because, more names the better.
Exactly. That's one thing I think we sort of found Super League was a bit soft on last year, was that their name of like well-known athletes was relatively shallow. And I hope, again, the thing is, we're in that period where it feels like we've been doing this podcast forever. It's a pre-Olympic year, mate. So we get to start throwing the pre-Olympic term around.
God, oh my God. Is it? Jesus, how is that possible? We've been throwing that term around forever. Haven't we said that every year since we've had a podcast?
It's because the Olympics moved, but we had 2 pre-Olympic years. Now we got another pre-Olympic year. So all bets are off in a pre-Olympic year, mate. That's the thing. It's
a pre-Olympic year suddenly. I hadn't even considered that. Of course it is. It's a pre-Olympic year. Who knows what's going to happen, mate? All bets are off, bro.
Exactly. We can, and that every time an athlete does any weird thing, we'll just that's our pre-Olympic year. It's like any excuse you need for anything those short course guys or girls do. It's a pre-Olympic year. It's the best excuse to have loaded in the cannon.
Yeah, man. When I fall off the wagon on a Friday night and have 7 ales, it's a pre-Olympic year.
Pre-Olympic year, exactly. You got to get those vocal cords rested. Exactly, mate. Get ready for it. So, speaking of several ales on a weekend. What a segue, mate, because we had the the inaugural Global Triathlon Awards happened in Nice over the weekend. Previously mentioned 40-year-old Will McCloy was one of the hosts alongside Paula Radcliffe, I believe.
Did he have a few too many ales and start shouting about the old days and how it was different when he was younger?
I don't think so. Will McCloy is a true professional, mate, so I can't see that happening. But yeah, the Global Triathlon Awards happened over the weekend. The first time we've seen this. I mean, I don't even know how I got on their mailing list, but I was getting like emails from them and all this. And at first I was like, this is just some other shitty little ink spot. It seemed to be pretty legit. Did you follow this at all? Did you have any interest in the Global Triathlon Awards? What are your thoughts about the awards?
Like yourself, I was getting the emails. I didn't watch it play out. I paid attention to the winners. I've got a list of the winners' names in front of me here. I saw all the shiny photographs of all the faces and names that we all know well enough. I mean, I didn't watch it. Did you watch it? Was it watching?
I tuned in to see what the numbers were on the stream, and it was depressing, so I turned it off. So the broadcast wasn't depressing, but I think when I turned it on, there was 98 people watching the stream. I thought, that hurts. It's not about to be 99. Exit. And then I was curious to see who got the awards. We sort of touched on them last week, and we can go through them. But I'm not sure that I necessarily agree with many of the award recipients. To be honest, I think it's quite an interesting selection. And I mean, no disrespect to people. When I saw the judges panel was announced, half of those people I'd never even heard of, and I'm like, why are these people judging the best triathletes and best whatever? Like some of them I knew and I think were okay, but the whole thing was it was a bit odd to me because, and I know that it feels like there's this thing happening at the moment in triathlon, and I kind of like it. I don't want to start proceeding this by making it sound negative, but it feels like we're really starting to see this like collaboration in the sport where you get Challenge and PTO and Super League and World Triathlon and stuff starting to do stuff together. And then you just got Ironman over here being like, nope, leave us. Nope, we're not being part of this. And watching these awards and the way that so many short course athletes were listed as nominees and stuff, and it's almost like this just big elephant in the room is left there where you've got everybody here doing the thing and then Ironman are just completely ignoring it, especially considering that this was in Nice. Ironman's World Championship is in Nice later this year. Maybe you would have thought there'd be something, but it's just odd. And I feel like as long as the sport continues to be as disjointed as it is, these sort of initiatives are always just going to be a little bit like
siloed.
Yeah.
It is odd. It is odd because I can't even see a real legitimate reason for their nonchalance to it. You know, it's like, grow the sport. If you're involved and you're part of this, some of the athletes that were part of your events were going to get showcased. Some of the events that those athletes were in are going to get showcased. You know, there's going to be a marketing element in this if you're part of it. I know maybe it's cost. I don't know. Maybe it's bitter hatred of other entities within triathlon. I don't know. But it is bemusing to me, and I'm glad you brought that up.
Maybe I wonder if it is because this is very much specifically targeted towards the professional aspect of triathlon. There's no award for most inspirational story or fastest age grouper or top ranked age grouper in the 45 to 49 70.3 division in their country. Like, again, we skirt around and we hypothesize and theorize that Ironman doesn't really care about the pro racing. And it again just seems to me like another example of their just lack of interest in the pro aspect of the sport.
Well, I mean, if they do care, then they do a very good job of hiding the fact, and also
for whatever reason,
not giving
it's
us
like
much
you know, when you like when a boy likes a girl or a girl likes a boy, and they kind of ignore them. They're like, no, I don't like you. Like it's almost like Ironman being like that with their pro athletes, like treat them mean, keep them keen, or something weird like that.
I mean, there were a few results in here I agree with. There's some that I don't care about, and there's some that I'm just like, whatever.
I didn't like all the product awards. I thought that was just like, you know, the footage of a dog licking itself. So I'm like, this is just what are we doing? And again, the actual like the Zwift Hub trainer, which won best bike product, I think it's just another bike trainer, right? Like, I think it might be a bit cheaper. I'm like, okay, that's the best bike product this year. Not okay. And then I felt that was a really unneeded area of the thing. It's basically like a sponsorship or something.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Seeing best swim product as Form Swim Smart Goggles, for example. I mean, this might need to be an edit point. I don't know. but
say what you like, man. Go for it.
What the fuck? No one likes them. No one likes them in the pro world. Some age groupers might get some benefit from them because I think they are more age group orientated.
100% age group specific.
Other than those pro athletes I've spoken to who are sponsored by them, I have never met a pro athlete that likes a pair of Form swimming goggles.
Are you sure that athletes that are sponsored by them?
Exactly. So, like, you know, is it the best swim product, or is it just part of some corporate sponsorship deal that's you know, that's what I wonder about these sort of things. I'm interested in the athlete awards. I'm not interested in the product awards at all because it doesn't bring anything to my world.
One of the things I said about Kona, and I don't know if I've said this on podcast or off, the worlds have blurred for me a little bit, is I've always found that triathlon has become a little bit of like the traveling circus. Like every event, like when we were in St. George, when I was in Kona,
same people,
same faces, it's the same brands. And looking at this list of things, I was like, it's literally that. It's Morton, it's Form. It's
even when you look at the pictures, even when you look at the photos of the event.
Oh, don't get me started on that because I have some thought. Like I really feel like if you're going to be like they gave Lever Movement the run product of the year, I would have thought it'd probably be the On running shoes that Gustav won Kona in. Like, maybe.
I don't know what the lever system is. What is that?
It's this thing you attach to a treadmill. It's basically so you're on the treadmill and it's like you strap yourself to it, so it takes a bit of your weight off, so you can run with less body weight.
Okay,
it's
so it's
basically
like an injury recovery thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because you've got anti-gravity machines that people use, and they're very expensive, and
like
it's meant to be I put out a tweet about this product like 2 years ago, maybe, when I first started to see people promote it. And I'm like, it's a sort of sad indication of our sport when you've got pro athletes having a indictment. That's the word I was looking for. When you've got pro athletes having to promote a product specifically designed to overcome injury. I was like, that's kind of like, it sends a weird message to me a little bit, but I've been told that there are other benefits of it. Again, I just feel like I didn't like that there were these product awards, but I also understand that this is a first year thing. So maybe it's like, okay, we'll take the L to get the money to do it.
We're long enough in the tooth to understand that the entities like this, in order to survive, need corporate relationships and need money coming in. So yeah, of course, that's fine. But I'm talking from how interested I am in the awards. I'm only really interested in the athlete awards. I'm not particularly interested in the contribution awards.
I don't dislike those. Like, again, I mean, Talbot Cox has done a lot of good stuff for. Basically every triathlete has a YouTube channel. I think that is because of what Talbot and Lionel have done together. So I think he definitely deserves.
Bob Babbitt well and truly
deserves
something. Kudos award.
I also like that Nicholas Spirig got the Lifetime Professional Athlete Achievement Award. I thought that was a very great way to, obviously Nicola retired last year, one of the most just like not really acknowledged athletes who, gold medalist, silver medalist, done incredible things. And then we get to, I guess, the weird ones for me. Like Rookie of the Year went to Chelsea Sodaro, which I'm still just baffled by, considering that Chelsea Sodaro is absolutely not a rookie. Like, in no way is she a rookie. And again, this is where I talk about the weirdness of the fact that Ironman were just like missing, but clearly so present, because it's like, oh, she's a rookie because she finally won Kona, or she won Kona on debut. So she's a Kona rookie. I definitely get that. But she's in no way is she a rookie. And again, that's what I find weird.
It's a loose interpretation of that, isn't it? It's what you define to be a rookie, because any race you've never done before, you are a rookie at.
Exactly.
Is it not? It's not like she's a first year triathlete. If we were in a bar and you said to me, Jim, what does a rookie mean? What would you consider a rookie triathlete? I'd be like, well, it's first year of competing.
Yeah, or same.
Possibly a stretch, first year of stepping up to long course from short course.
Yeah. She kind of is, I suppose. She's like first year of Ironman.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I mean,
she well and truly deserves an award. She's amazing. What she did was amazing. It was a bit of a loose interpretation of rookie there, but there you go.
You see, I think if you're going to follow that sort of interpretation, there's one athlete in particular, I think, that has been sort of unfairly neglected or has not won, because I thought that she would have won. If you want to go by stepping up to distance, she should have won it. Ashley Gentle, female triathlete of the year, I think she should have won. Ashley Gentle. I think that's odd. And then again, I think I saw something where they said that the results and everything was 50%. There was all this other stuff like contribution to sport and all these other reasons for judging it. And I think Flora Duff is an incredible athlete, but I had this conversation with Marcus, who I work with, the number one triathlon frother in the world, and I know that he listens, where we were talking about this the other day, and he said he definitely thinks it's Flora Duff. He looked, Commonwealth Games gold, World Triathlon world champion, and I said I feel like Flora had an incredible year, but she still had some races where she really didn't fire. Collins Cup, she got destroyed by Daniela Reif. Earlier in the year, when we said Flora Duffy going to 70.3 worlds makes it a foregone conclusion, did not. Absolutely did not. We've seen her, again, short course, exceptional. But there's been this really obvious area of, I think there's room for improvement. Whereas I look at Ash Gentle, and Ash, literally everything she touched, with the exception, I think, of the championship, where she just had a bad race, was just on fire, mate. And the way she did it was incredible. Again, I'm not sure about the specifics how they want to judge it, but personally, I would have, if I looked at the two and you just actually take away the shiny, gold medal and world champion. If you actually look at the way they performed during the year, I think if Ash Gentle went to St. George, she probably her and Taylor Knibb would have had an incredible race.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, it depends how you judge it, isn't it? A minute ago, you said that part of it's results, and some of it, a percentage of it, is based on representing sport and what you've done for the sport and all that. And I tend to be of the view as a fan of the sport and as an audience member that these awards like this should be based solely on results, really, in my mind, because as a fan of the sport and an audience, people outside of this sort of inner circle of the sport, you don't really notice the contribution type thing, and then you get funny results where you go, oh, but she won this, and this, and then they go, well, we're going to give it to this one because she sort of did some other stuff. I always think it should be results based, and I think on that basis, Flora Duffy is the winner.
Okay, interesting. Again, I like that because I think we also disagree on the male winner.
Oh, we totally
because
do.
I saw that we definitely do because I saw Tim Hemming put out that tweet about basically it should have been Christian, which I 100% agree with. And then everyone else is like, agree. And then there's James Bell, disagree.
Well, because we had that conversation last week on the podcast.
Exactly.
We'd chosen our male athlete of the year, and yours was Christian and mine was Gustav. Now, I can justify this fairly simply. It's not a mathematical equation in my mind. It is based on the enjoyment I got out of that athlete in that moment at that race. And it was greater. Watching him perform at Kona was greater than anything else that happened to me that year. I felt that he executed
including sub-7?
Perfect. Yeah, including sub-7. Outstanding, perfect race that I was like, this is amazing to see. And it gives me the impression it's going to carry on for years to come. And I think I find that really exciting. And Gustav's race in itself entertained me, but then the what was possible for the future entertained me as well. And it's really exciting time. Now, I know you're going to say the same thing for Christian and what he's done. And don't get me wrong. Christian's amazing. And I know you probably listen, Christian. I love you, mate. You're all right. You are.
But what I was going to say is the award wasn't performance of the year, though. It's because I think Gustav's Kona performance was the outstanding, second best performance of the year behind Joe's sub-7. And again, that's because of context. Like purely athletically, Gustav's performance was fucking unbelievable.
Yeah, exactly.
But
you're right.
I still think if you look at it as of the year, we saw Gustav do a couple of PTO events. He didn't finish 70.3 worlds. He won Kona, didn't do St. George, and then didn't deliver at the short course stuff. We saw Christian do St. George, win it, 70.3, win it, Kona, third, sub-7, win it. Then he goes to Bergen World Cup, comes second in a sprint finish with Dorian Connex, 2 top 10 finishes in World Triathlon Championship Series. Like, again, male triathlete of the year.
Yeah. Look, there is a version of me that could argue with this version of me. The other side of the coin, I'm not doing Christian down by any account. I just think Gustav's performance, I loved it.
Is it again?
It was an amazing performance.
Is it showing? Do all of these awards, rookie? Oh, actually, not all, because clearly not Flora Duffy. But is this another example of showing the power of Ironman? Because you'd have to sort of hang your hat on Gustav's selection on the Kona race. Both Chelsea and Gustav's, I feel like they won their awards because of the Kona race. And then if you really want to talk about, rookie of the year, this is the first year. Well, I guess he did a Florida last year, but I just feel like it shows this massive weight towards that Kona performance for both of them, which were incredible. Which is so weird considering you can't get Ironman to get involved with this awards event. It's just
it shows the awards themselves are being the bigger entity, aren't they? They're saying, well, just because you're not going to be involved doesn't mean we're going to discount Ironman's performances and races from the Global Triathlon Awards. Do you know what I mean? Because that would be petty, wouldn't it? If Ironman's refusing to be included is petty, then turning their back on the fact that the Ironman races exist and those performances were as they were would be equally as petty. Because if you're going to market yourself as the Global Triathlon Awards and then you ignore probably the biggest stakeholder in triathlon, that would be silly.
What did you think about the nominees?
I mean, I've got comments on them. I haven't got the list in front of me at the moment, so I'd have to.
Well, I can quickly go through so that the men's triathlete of the years were Hayden Wild, Gustav Eden, Christian Blumenfeld, Alex Yee, Matt Hauser. No Leo Berger?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean...
Women, Flora Duffy, Chelsea Sodaro, Georgia Taylor-Brown, Lucy Charles-Barclay, Ash Gentle. I think that's that to me is a pretty solid list. I reckon the women's list.
Yeah, I think so.
But then again, no Daniela Reif, who won St. George. Then you have Anne Haug, the number 1 ranked female athlete of the year on the PTO rankings, not nominated.
I mean, they're broad brushing it, aren't they? They're really looking at athletes that are racing short course and long course.
Whereas I look at the men's and it just seems short course.
Yeah.
Like I mean, I know that Christian Gustav sort of cross over,
Gustav
but
obviously cover the Ironman element of it, but
I love Hauser. Interesting. Fucking hell, was he really one of the best male triathletes of the year last year?
Love him to bits. Great bloke, but no. It's interesting that they have such a short course based men's selection when the winner obviously won because of his Ironman performance.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? So if you're going to choose the winner based on their Ironman performance, why aren't there more Ironman athletes in that list?
Here's another point though that I found very fascinating was a number of long course athletes that I know. Like I had people message me the other day going, "What the fuck are the Global Triathlon Awards?" I'm like, "Oh, don't you know?" They're like, "Why didn't I get invited? Like I should have been invited." I'm like, "Yeah, you should have been invited." Like I don't understand. Like I find again, and I understand this is my understanding is that this was primarily operated by Super League Triathlon in conjunction with PTO and World Triathlon, and I think you can see that when you look at the people that were there, the people on the like you talked about the footage and snippet. It very much looks like a Super League.
Oh yeah,
event.
Absolutely.
Like, and that's probably why we see it was mostly short course athletes who were there. There's a few long course athletes, I believe, but yeah. Oh well. Again, I think this is. I really feel like in a couple of years this is going to be a big deal. It's the first year of something. Of course, it's not going to strike lightning and suddenly everybody's like, "This is incredible." I feel like in 4 or 5 years, this will be a major event. I hope it is. I like these sort of things. I hope the product awards are fucked off. I hope that we can get rid of that. Maybe we can have a para triathlete category, for example. I think that. I mean, again, you want to talk Lauren Parker. I think should have probably been included, considering she won St. George, Nice, World Triathlon Championship Series. Like, I feel like there's some room for improvement here, but I'm sure that we'll give a pass for the first time, and yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, agreed. What are we going to talk about now, bro?
The PTO are putting out events left, right, and center. And last week we spoke about them putting out their Singapore race in August. They've got another race in August, mate. August is becoming jam-packed. With the 4th and 5th of August in Milwaukee, we got the PTO Tour. Not in Dallas this year, and I believe it's run in conjunction with the USA age group national championships, I believe. And I've seen a lot. Again, I don't even know where Milwaukee is, to be honest. It's somewhere in America. It's a big place. But from what I've seen online, the reaction seems overwhelmingly positive. A lot of people seem to think this is a really, really, really great choice of venue and date. And I think I saw a comment somewhere saying that they if the date had been the same time as last year, it probably would have clashed with Nice. So they've sort of moved it earlier to avoid that clash, which is also interesting considering what we were talking about last week with Singapore almost exactly clashing with Finland.
Well, maybe they know which way their bread is buttered, mate, and they can take on the 70.3 Worlds, but taking on Nice would be a little bit too much of an ask. And certainly, I don't know anything about Milwaukee either. I couldn't even tell you whether it was left, right, middle, up, or down on the map, to be honest. But
is it a state or is it a city?
I don't know, bro.
Milwaukee. I think that's a city, I think.
Is it?
It's in Wisconsin. It's in Wisconsin, USA.
Oh, so it's along the top.
It's on the lake it's on that big fucking Lake Michigan. It's on that big lake that Chicago's on.
Okay, cool. Well, I know a man who lives near there, and he says it's very, very pretty. And like you, I've seen some of the feedback, and everybody seems pretty pleased about this. August is always a good time to have a race as well. A lot of people are on school holidays, summer holidays. You're going to get more chance to get a crowd there. More people are going to go and get involved. It gives you an option of a different race to go and do because they've got an age group event alongside it as well. I think it's a good thing. Keep rolling them out. Keep announcing them early. Give people a chance to make their plans. The PTO they're gathering pace, mate, and I'm pleased to see it.
I wonder. I was just while you were speaking. I don't have. Yeah, there's age group. Okay, there are age group events. Because one of the things we've sort of spoken about, or I've always been quite positive about with the PTO, is the fact that they really do seem to listen to the feedback. I thought that Dallas race was fucking shit last year. Like I thought it was terrible. So you can almost see the gears working a little bit here, where they're like, okay, well, why don't we align with a big event that's going to be on? So firstly, because there was no crowds in Dallas. if the age group national championship is going to be on, even if they're not doing the PTO event, or again, I haven't looked enough into the details, you're probably going to see more people on there, which is going to make the broadcast better. The date, I think, looks quite good, especially if you're a longer course guy, because if you're looking at people who are sort of building for Nice, it's like just over a month out. Works out really well. Gives them a couple of weeks and then get ready. I mean, even if you're going for 70.3 Worlds, my prediction is this race, this American Open, will have a much better field than the Asian Open in Singapore, also because the conditions at this race are going to be much more favorable to most athletes, because Singapore is going to be fucking hot. Like, it's going to be real hot. Whereas this, I imagine, would be much more sort of like neutral or fair conditions. So I expect this to have quite a stellar field, especially because we know the way that Americans love to race in front of Americans. So we're going to see a big race, I expect here, and I'm loving it, man. I hope the course is better than Dallas.
I agree with everything you just said there. I think the Dallas race was poor. I think aligning with an event that's already taken place gives an opportunity to expand that crowd, expand interest, expand eyes. You're also going to get more possibility of entrance as well, because some people might be traveling there anyway to support others. You know, and it becomes one big momentum ball. So good luck to them. But I'm still intrigued by that, the placing of the PTO Asian Open in Singapore the week before the 70.3 Worlds. And Ashley Gentle has been the first athlete to come out and say that she may well prioritize the PTO Asian Open over the 70.3 Worlds, which is an interesting development there.
Again, fascinating, because you consider that Ash Gentle last year also didn't race 70.3 Worlds, and I still think she probably would have won the thing. But she raced Noosa Triathlon instead, because there was that clash. And I think she got married, the week before or the week after. Her wedding was around that time, so it makes sense that she stayed locally. But, you know, Ash won like all the PTO races she did last year.
Yeah, and every single time. A real allegiance to the PTO races. She's quoted as saying, obviously the race is just a week after the PTO Asian Open in Singapore, and the World Championships are in Europe, which is quite a lot of travel for race week, and also two very different climates for racing. She said, at the PTO events, there isn't anyone missing. It's a world-class field and the best athletes at the distance turning up and performing at the events. So from what I'm gleaming from those two short quotes is she's got an allegiance with the PTO events. So I think she likes them. And I think we'll see, I'm guessing we will see her miss the 70.3 Worlds. She was ambiguous, but it was, there was a read between the lines type message there.
Again, I'm not surprised she likes it, considering she probably made $400,000 US out of winning some of those races.
Yeah, exactly.
She's not doing. So again, it's interesting that one of the things we touched on, and I don't want to go on it again, but is that there's a lot of other benefits. Being the PTO champion only takes you so far in terms of sponsorship and stuff. So far, there's still a lot of gravitas attached to being a world champion. So we will see. But that moves us on to the next thing that I wanted to talk a little bit about this year, mate, because last year we sort of retrospectively, whatever it is, looked back at 2022, was we're at the start. We're at the precipice of 2023, mate. And I wanted to have a little chat with you around what you think we're going to see this year, what excites you, what makes you a little bit nervous, what do you think, what are some predictions for this year, all that sort of good stuff. In a nutshell, what do you see 2023 looking like? Remembering obviously that it is a pre-Olympic year, James Bale.
It's a pre-Olympic year, mate. So obviously all bets are off, and any strange things, any predictions we get wrong are probably because it's a pre-Olympic year. So we can give ourselves a free pass on that already. What am I going to see this year? I think Nice is going to be really quite an exciting and talked about event, because it's the first year they're going to see part of the World Championships there. I think it's going to be a dominating narrative, that one, as we build up to that. I think talk of Jan Frodeno's comeback, gathering pace with his Instagram post the other day saying that he's now running however many
70K
miles,
a week,
70K a week or something like that, is going to be the talk of the town. I'm partially expecting him to delay his retirement a year and race Kona one more time.
I think so too. I think so too.
I think he needs to. It's legacy hunting there. Legacy hunting. Go after it. Come on. One more year. One more job. I think the splitting of the male and female fields for the Ironman World Championship is also going to be an interesting one. I'm keen to see what the effect of that is, whether it's an amplification of both races or whether it is to the detriment of one or both of those races. That's something that I can't quite figure out from this point. I know what I feel about it, but I don't know what the actual tangible results of that are going to be.
I'm very much the same. I feel like we've seen Ironman come out and say basically for the next 4 years this split is going to happen. I don't believe that's going to be the case.
No.
I feel like it'll happen this year. I don't know what the change is going to be, but I would not be surprised if something changes, whether it's the venue, whether, heaven forbid, we see Kona go away altogether. Because again, I
see it happening this year, and I see the results of it being very detrimental to one or both of those races. And then Ironman going, oof, hang on a second, we've got to do something else. And whether that's going away from Kona, but keeping the men and women together for several cycles, then going back to Kona every now and again, I don't know, but I just can't see it sustaining itself like this.
This is maybe a slight tangent. We are sort of delving a little bit more into the age group world here, but do you feel like, because from a professional point of view, I 100% like the fact that the men's and women's races are not separated this way, but that the women get their own chance to shine. But
indeed,
I wonder if this women's only age group race is actually going to do anything to try to drive or increase women's participation in the sport, because I'm not sure that simply throwing open the floodgates and saying, hey, if you're a female and you want to do Kona, hooray, here's a race that's going to cost you $10,000 to go and do, and it's hot and it's hard and it's hideous. Is that really going to do much to actually increase female participation in the sport? Or do you think that maybe there is more that they could be doing at a grassroots level, or looking at pathways into the sport and those sort of things to try to increase that? Because what is it, like 80% male, 20% female or something? Again, I've made that number up. But do you think that simply going like there's a women's only day dedicated is going to do much to drive female participation? Or do you think it is going to, one of the arguments we've seen a lot of people saying is, oh, by doing this, you just mean that the fields are diluted and it's not going to be special anymore? Do you think that maybe that is a part of the case, and that allure of Kona suddenly becomes not so mysterious?
I'm not sure that linking the World Championship days to participation in sport is a good route to take, because you're talking about people that have decided they want to race the World Championship. They're not normally people that have, do you know what I mean? It's not a drive of participation in triathlon is normally comes from doing your first local sprint, or your first local Olympic, or your first duathlon even, or your first swim run. That's where participation grows, is getting that, but splitting the male and female world championships and allowing the what is essentially meant to be the very best of the best women and men age group race each other on different days and get more time and space. I don't see any participation improvements coming out of that. I see maybe more people getting the opportunity to have that race, but those people aren't going to be new participants to triathlon.
Does that then mean that the Kona it's no longer about the best of the best race, and it suddenly becomes a real bucket list, like, ticking off that item off your list? Or do you think that we could start to see racing Kona really? Because I think Kona currently is a bit of both. You've got the athlete, which I like. You've got the legacy.
The best that can afford it.
Not just that though, but like, I mean, you are 100% correct. But I feel like it is not purely the best of the best, because you have legacy slots.
Yeah,
you have a very heavily weighted USA qualification stream, which means you have lower tiers of American athletes who are able to qualify just because there's more races for them too compared to other parts of the world. I wonder if this suddenly opening the floodgates and allowing 3,000-4,000 people to do just males or just females, if we are going to see it become more of a tick that item off your list. I want to race Kona one day, and you get to do it.
Maybe. I think it might well. I saw a comment the other day on an article I was reading about 220 Triathlon. I think it asked a lot of age groupers for comments on how to improve Ironman, and all of it was mainly generic kind of waffle. But there was one that was just like, oh, I wish they'd do that. They would never would because of financial reasons. But one person said there should be, racing the World Championship should be free, as in entry, but there should be no roll downs. It should only be you either take your slot or there's no slot. And I love that. That would be great, because then you really would be getting the best of the best.
I actually really like that idea too. Again, never happened in Kona.
No.
In fact, it will never happen in an Ironman branded event.
No, exactly. It'll never happen. But I just love the idea, because it would mean that you are really distilling down to those people that do win their age groups. And if you don't take your slot, it doesn't roll.
maybe a way we see this, because how for people playing along at home, for pro athletes, they get their Ironman license, which basically gives them the right to race any Ironman race around the world. What is it, like $1,500 or whatever? I could see Ironman move into a model like that, where they start to sell these like Ironman pass. They sell to age groups, I don't know, let's say $5,000 or whatever, and suddenly it gives you unlimited access to Ironman races. And then part of that is, if you qualify for the world champs, you don't have to pay an extra fee. It's just included in your pass or something like that.
Almost like a yearly subscription.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw something like that again.
What it would work for some athletes. We should be working for Ironman's marketing and corporate department, shouldn't we?
Hey, the calls after this, you shouldn't have told the people. Yeah, but look, I'm really. I loved St. George. I thought St. George was phenomenal. Change of scenery, different sorts of athletes. I mean, kind of not really. Daniel Larue still won the women's race, and Christian did what Christian did.
I loved it. I'm a bit St. Georged out though. I quite fancy a year where I don't have to worry about St. George again.
Definitely. I'm very happy that it's not in St. George again, because I feel like everybody's like, oh, fuck, here we go again, St. George. But I still think Nice is such a great selection for if you're going to pick an alternative. Like, yeah, I think it's a good one. So there's that, which I'm really excited about. I think we're going to see very different winners win the thing. Do you want to make some quick predictions at this point, who you think is going to do what, or?
No. Not until I've seen a bit of racing in the season. I don't want to make any predictions yet, because they're based on nothing. They're based on last year, and the context, we haven't seen any this year's context yet. In terms of other things that I'm excited about, I think we're going to see, as Ashley Gentle says, I think we're going to see more engagement with the PTO racing. I think we're going to see that start to take off. People are starting to realize how much money there is available at these races. I think we're going to see a lot more engagement on those. I'm intrigued to see the season play out for the short course athletes, because, as you know, it's a pre-Olympic year. So,
which means we got the test event.
We got the test event indeed. So that'll be exciting. Tyler Misterchuk, test event specialist. Go on, mate.
Come on, mate. No, I'm really looking forward to that too. I'm curious to see what happens with 70.3 worlds, because it has felt like the shine has rubbed off a little bit since 2019. I feel like, from basically 2014, or, I think we went like ZLAMC, then Chattanooga, Sunny Coast. Like the way that there was this, I think Chattanooga was after Sunny Coast actually, but the way that there was this like increase in the interest, where we had that 2018 race with Jan, Alistair, and Javier, and then 2019 Gustav Eden, it feels like it sort of started to deteriorate a little bit. And I'd really like to see it get back to that point where 70.3 Worlds is one of the marquee events on the calendar. I wonder whether, we talked about that there's so many great races. August, September's looking pretty crowded, mate. Like there's a lot going on in that period there. Maybe we're going to have to see, like, maybe last year I didn't like the 70.3 Worlds was after Kona. I think I'd like to see 70.3 Worlds almost move to the first half of the year, like well away, so that we actually have this real separation, so that there's not suddenly this balancing act. I mean, we say this every week when there's a new race announced the same weekend as another race or whatever. I feel like there has to be some sort of system, because that's the one thing that last year, this year, I am getting a bit sick of, is the way that all these great races are all happening. Like if you look at August, September, we've got the test event, we've got Super League Triathlon, we've got 70.3, we've got PTO, we've got Nice. There's 10 other months of the year, guys.
Mate, we scream it often. I've already said it once on this podcast. I wish the powers that be within triathlon, the key stakeholders, would have some entente cordiale, where they sit down and they plan a season that is not just simply to their individual benefit, but to the benefit of the audience and the age, not the age groupers, but the audience and the people they're trying to inspire to watch and be part of the triathlon year. Sit down and design a season that works for everybody, because until you do that, we're going to keep coming up against this barrier and this problem.
Yeah, exactly right. Another race that I'm very keen on, and that's because I've had a bit of a peek behind the curtain, and I know what that start list is starting to look like, but Challenge Roth is going to be one to watch this year too. They've got some big names on that start list, and I think we're going to see Roth's going to be a real good event, which I'm very excited to follow. It was great to watch last year Magnus do that incredible performance.
Race it, aren't you? Didn't you say you were going to race it? No.
I was actually thinking about trying to go, but I don't want, because I'm in Europe in August, September, and I don't particularly want to go June, come back, go back. I'm trying to travel a little less this year. Maybe one day, who knows? If I was going to do one, Roth would be a one that I would consider. But I think Roth's going to be a great race. And then I'm very curious because we know that the PTO's Collins Cup is not in Samarin again this year. It's moving somewhere else. And I think we know where it is. We're obviously not going to say it, but if it's true, very interested and exciting to see how that develops and changes. Because as I said earlier, I feel like the PTO takes that feedback on board really, really well. And I know that they're going to be trying to make sure that what they do this year is bigger and better than it was last year.
Absolutely.
As well.
And that location means a lot less travel for me because South Molton in North Devon is the perfect place to hold the
It's true. I mean, Cup. You were instrumental in getting them to agree to Devon. Like, I feel like, people are going to be able to really thank you afterwards because they're going to see the
in person.
In person, they're going to see that you're able to highlight the what do you call them? Sorry, I knew the moors or the dales or something.
The moors, not the dales. No, the moors.
What's a dale?
A dale is in
Forest.
Yorkshire.
A moor is it the same thing, just with a different name?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, good. Fucking UK. English, good language, isn't it? Very easy for people who don't speak English to.
And then we've got the WTCS schedule coming up as well, which I love the fact that when that racing kicks off, that every now and again you just got a race to watch, and it's always interesting to see some of the names and faces that we know so well going out and plying their trade as we go through the year. And like you say, there's the test event thrown in there as well.
Again, I'm very interested to see how having the Henry Schoomans and the Vincent Louis and the Christian Blumenfelds and those guys all back in the field that we didn't see last year is going to mix things up. Are we going to see Alexi and Hayden Wild continue to have their I mean, again, I didn't even mention Leo Berger there, which is very weird, considering he is the world champion. But I'm curious to see the way things sort of mix up. And then, like we said, the Gwen Jorgensen being added to the women's field, very interested to see as well. And then you always know there's going to be the new people that come through. We see it every year where there's this new athlete that we've not really heard of. Who's going to be? Kate Wolf, the British athlete who was the under-23 world champion last year. We sort of saw her pop up at some Super League events.
Apparently, he's a guy called Hayden Wild. He's quite good.
Hayden Wild goes all right, doesn't he?
Relative newbie.
Do you think, is this going to be, because Hayden, I feel like last year, great race with Super League, but he was sort of, I said it a lot, Alex, he just sort of had his number. Do you think this could be the year that we actually see Hayden really step up and be the dominant force in short course racing? Or is he going to be one of those people that sort of suffers because of the Vinces and the Henrys and having the Norwegians back? What do you think?
I think he's got to be very careful and strategic this year. I think if he steps up and is a dominant force across the season and let's say wins the championship and kicks everyone's asses, I think it would be a mistake in a pre-Olympic year. I think he needs to be strategic. He needs to show some of the key players when he's strong and how he can be strong, but also, just think about the year tactically and
Did you actually just reminded me, did you see that in one of the pre-interviews at the Global Triathlon Awards when they asked Christian and Gustav whether we're going to see them in Nice or what are they going to do? And I love that they actually said, so the test event's on a Thursday, so we'll do the test event in Paris, we'll fly to Singapore, we'll do the PTO race in Singapore, then we'll fly to Finland and we'll do the 70.3 a week later. And everyone's like, ha, ha, ha. And I'm thinking, they're just mad enough that they probably would actually do this.
Test event in Paris is on the 17th to the 20th of August. So... it's one of those days for the men's race and women's race.
I think what they said is that the men's race is Thursday, and the PTO race is Sunday. So they could theoretically do that race in Paris, jump on a plane. And again, actually, it's 8 or 9 hours to Singapore from Paris, and then do it all again. And then again, a week later, do it all again. If they do that, I'd love it. I'd love to see that stuff. I love to see people sort of pushing the envelope of what is believable or things like that. One thing I want to touch on just before we wrap up, mate, and that's only briefly get your thoughts about it, is we saw that Race Ranger non-drafting technology was introduced at an event last year. I'm not sure if you actually followed things, James Bale. I'm not sure how closely you followed this, but it was actually, it's in conjunction with World Triathlon. And it doesn't actually have any involvement with an Ironman. I don't know if you follow this, James.
Yeah, well, I obviously do, mate. But I'm always very concerned about your lack of interest and knowledge in the sport, especially when you put ill-considered tweets out. I'm just like, rookie, doesn't know shit.
What do you think about it, though? I mean, from all reports, the technology was really good. I've heard. I've not really heard any negatives. It seems as though it was a success. I don't know how well it worked. I think from, again, what I heard, it worked quite well. I can only see this being a positive. But do you actually see this being something that is implemented?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, my thoughts on it are summed up nicely in my tweet that I put out, which was, if it works as well as they say it works, then it's a brilliant thing for the pro field. Even if it works as well as they say it works, it will never and should never be used in the age group field. The cost would be far too much to be used in age group field, and the age group field doesn't matter enough for that to be necessary. Now, everyone's going to lose their shit at me and have a little dummy spit because I said that.
No, because mate, there's the purity of age group racing, mate. We know that it is
that much. The age group field matters to you as an individual, as an athlete who's racing that race. It matters to you, and I get that, and it really does. I've been there, I've raced it. I know how much it matters, and I respect that. But from an audience perspective, from a judging perspective, from a drafting perspective, it doesn't matter enough for the cost associated with putting a technology like this on everyone's bike and pinging people every time they go within the drafting distance. So yeah, brilliant technology. Use it for the pros field if it works as well as it says it does, but it'll never be implemented for age groups.
I did love that. Yeah, Brad Culp put up a tweet basically saying, "Yeah, it'd be good for pros, but I don't care about age group racing." Be like, "What do you mean? What do you mean you don't care about age group racing? Actually, 90% of triathlon is age group, and you should care." It's like, fuck off. And I think I took a screenshot of it, didn't I? And I sent it to you. I was like, "This is everything wrong with triathlon in one tweet." Like this is.
And I think didn't that tweet actually did start with the word "actually"?
Yeah, I think it actually did start with the word "actually."
It's a trigger word for me, that one.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, again, I think you're right.
It was a good tweet from Brad. First time he's tweeted something good for a while.
Race Ranger, I love it. I can't see. And again, interestingly, that it's aligned with what, and I understand why, but why is a non-drafting product associated with a draft legal race series? Yeah. I still don't get that. I think that's weird, but I understand. I hope it works. I hope that there's implementation across the pro racing. I just can't see it being commercially successful when you consider that the use case is going to be so limited, because I can't see races really rolling it out for the pro fields. Unless it is some sort of system where you don't buy the stuff, you just have it like with the timing chips or whatever, and it's part of the.
That's the way I see it happening, mate. It's like I see timing companies investing in this and having it as part of their package that companies lease for their races and for their race weekends. I don't see it as I see it will just become part of the overhead for the timing companies. And then it'll be a bolt-on that they say, well, we're better than the other timing company because we come with this, and eventually they'll all come with it.
I think people will hate to see how much time they spend drafting. And imagine you get a report at the end of the race. You spent this much time. People are like, nope, don't need this. Hide stats.
This, yeah, don't need to leave your lying eyes.
Fuck, man. I think in Bahrain, because it was fucking windy and hard out there, and this group passed me that I'd spent 40 minutes trying to catch and pass, and this group comes past me like literally, and I'm not even talking like subtle drafting. I'm talking like on the rear wheel.
Peloton riding.
It's still single line, but like literally team time trial. And I gave him a fucking spray. Like, you fucking words I'm not going to say on the podcast, you cheating. Like, really. Yeah. And then all the marshals coming the other way. I'm like, well, look at these bastards. Get these like, yeah. They would not like to see their post-race Race Ranger report. I don't think it would be doing them any favors.
No, same thing happened to me when I was in Bahrain. There was groups of people riding in a peloton, taking turns at the front. And it just saddens you, doesn't it? Because, you're there to compete within the rules of the race and find out what you can do on the day, irrespective of the conditions.
Mate, don't you dare criticize the purity of age group racing. We know, mate, that the pinnacle of triathlon is the age groupers doing the sport.
Ooh, we're going to get some shit this week, mate.
I love it. Bring it on. Don't at me. At Bale.James85. Jimbo, if people want to find out more about the podcast, where do they need to go?
If you want to find out more about MX Endurance, head to mxendurance.com or search MX Endurance on Facebook or at MX Endurance on Twitter or Instagram. If you want to follow me, I'm at Bale.James85 on Instagram, or you can follow Tim at T414 on Instagram. Fill up his DMs. He loves it. Jump onto iTunes, give the show a review. You can do it on the podcast app, and it really helps the show out. If you like what we're doing, tell a friend, help us grow. If you've got any suggestions, guests, comments, or criticisms, send an email to podcast@mxendurance.com.
James Bale, a pleasure as always. Thank you for doing this, mate. We'll be back next week, guys. Thank you for listening. All that stuff James said.
Cheerio.